Hi boys and girls, it's Mrs. Hendrickson. Today we're going to be talking about the outer planets. Yesterday you learned about the four inner planets, Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars. And today we're going to learn about the four outer planets, often called the gas giants. They are incredibly larger than the inner planets. So we're going to take these one planet at a time. First of all, we're going to talk about how they are gas giants. So we're going to start on page 193. There are still four more planets in our solar system beyond Mars. Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. They are known as the outer planets. The outer planets are much larger than the inner planets. They do not have clearly defined surfaces like those of the inner planets. We only see the atmospheres of the outer planets. For these reasons, these planets are often called gas giants. However, they have liquid inner layers and a solid core. Each of the outer planets has rings of particles and many moons orbiting it. Now we know the Earth only has our one moon. These outer planets have lots of moons. It's really cool. The first one, when we get past Mars and we get to the outer planets, the first one we would come to is Jupiter. It's the fifth planet from the sun. It's the largest planet in the entire solar system. It is a gas giant. Jupiter's atmosphere is mostly hydrogen and helium. The atmosphere of Jupiter shows many bands of color. The planet rotates much faster than Earth. So that means it's going to have quicker days than our days, shorter days. In the time it takes Earth to make one rotation, Jupiter completes more than two. So that means Jupiter has more than 2 days for each of our 1 days. Jupiter has many moons. A moon is a natural object that orbits a planet. Some planets, especially the outer planets, have several moons. In 1610, Galileo was the first person to see the four largest moons of Jupiter through his telescope. They are shown to the right. So these are the ones that Galileo was able to see. I don't know how you say Ganymede, Io, Europa, Callisto maybe? All right, on to Saturn. Saturn is the sixth planet from the sun. Like Jupiter, Saturn has an atmosphere that contains mostly hydrogen and helium. Saturn is very large, but its density is low. When Galileo looked at Saturn through his telescope, he saw what looked like a planet with handles. The handles were really the brilliant rings that orbit Saturn. The particles making up the rings vary in size from tiny grains to boulders, and they are made of ice, dust, and rock. The inner rings of Saturn revolve faster around the planet than the outer rings. So you kind of think of like different hula hoops going around Saturn, and the ones in the middle are going really fast, and the outer ones are going a little slower. But they're made of that ice, dust, and rock. In 2009, a giant new ring was discovered. The ring is invisible, but its infrared glow was detected by the Spitzer Space Telescope. The ring is tilted relative to the other rings and rotates in the opposite direction. So it says two rocks on the rings of Saturn start orbiting at points 1 and 2. After a while, the rock that started at point 1 has moved to point 3. Fill in the number that shows where rock 2 is likely to be, considering its speed. Remember, the closer to the middle, the faster it's going. Okay, and then you see the red infrared ring. Very interesting. Okay, next planet, Uranus. Uranus is the seventh planet from the sun and the most distant planet you can see without a telescope. Uranus has an atmosphere of hydrogen, helium, and methane. The planet is so cold that the methane can condense into a liquid. Tiny drops of this liquid methane form a thin cloud that covers the planet, giving it a fuzzy blue-green look. Like the other outer planets, Uranus has rings and many moons. Unlike the rings of Saturn, the rings of Uranus are dark and hard to see with Earth-based telescopes. Uranus rotates on its side, so that's different than the other planets. No one knows why Uranus has this odd tilt. Scientists think a large object may have hit the planet when the solar system was still forming, and this bump may have knocked Uranus on its side. Neptune. Neptune is too far away to see without a telescope. It is the 8th planet from the sun, and it was discovered in 1846. It takes more than 100 Earth years for Neptune to orbit the sun. Neptune is the smallest of the outer planets. Even so, if Neptune were hollow, it could hold about 60 of our Earth. Neptune's atmosphere is like that of Uranus. Like Uranus, Neptune has a bluish color because of the methane in its atmosphere. Neptune also has storms and bands of clouds like those of Jupiter. Neptune has at least 13 moons. The largest one is Triton, which may be the coldest object in the entire solar system. Exploring the giants. Several probes have been sent to explore the outer planets. They were launched from Florida. Pioneer 10 and Pioneer 11 were launched in the 1970s, followed by Voyager 1 and 2. The Galileo probe explored Jupiter in great detail, and the Cassini mission has sent back a huge amount of information on Saturn. A smaller probe named Huygens was launched from Cassini and was able to land on Saturn's largest moon, Titan. So very interesting information that we can be gathering from these probes. Okay, that's the end of this lesson. Make sure to watch the extra videos I've posted on the assignment.